how many people got up this morning and thought about, gosh, I can't wait to I listened to the Rusty Move podcast about gallbladder, but as we're going to branch into, it's just a symptom of what gets out of balance.
Welcome back to another Rusty Move podcast. Today, we're going to talk about such an interesting topic, and it's the gallbladder. And so you probably woke up this morning and were like, I can't wait to listen to a podcast on the gallbladder. But if you don't have gallbladder issues or know somebody, I would still hang tight on this podcast because we're going to discuss more of a principle or thinking around the gallbladder specifically, but it can apply to any operation, surgery, from the context. So today we're going to talk about eating for a healthy gallbladder, how we can prevent and treat gallstones. And, I think you'll hear from my father in a second. We really have some personal ties to this and also some hope and optimism that we don't have to yank out as many gallbladders each year that we're doing in our country. So, Dad, welcome to the podcast. Are you excited to talk about the gallbladder?
Well, I think you teed it up just correctly. I mean, how many people got up this morning and thought about, gosh, I can't wait to I listened to the Rusty Move podcast about gallbladder, but as we're going to branch into, it's just a symptom of what gets out of balance. And a big part of that is, growing up for me, I'll turn 66 in basically almost a month, but everybody got their tonsils out. And I was always upset that both my brother and sister got their tonsils out and they got to eat ice cream and whatever. I wanted my tonsils out so I could spend a day in the hospital or so, get my tonsils out. So
get the laughing gas.
Yeah, and then many kids in your schools and everything else. So then we realized the tonsils are really important for the immune system.
Stopped yanking them out.
And so you don't hear much about kids getting their tonsils out today because we realize it's such an important organ basically for the immune system. So now that crosses,
it's kind of the first catch, isn't it?
Yeah, now we're crossing into the gallbladder, and to me it's the same thinking that I have when I have people that have gallstones or gallbladder issues or whatever. I'm like, well, wait a minute, we're not taking that out unless it's the last resort because it has a function.
So when we're talking about the gallbladder, you're talking about the tonsils. Today we're going to talk about the gut, which the gallbladder is a part of, the tonsils are part of, anything from the mouth out of the body. You're going to talk about the bulls. We're going to talk about how to think about it, how to talk about it. But let's begin today with just giving the listeners an idea of where this thing's located in the body. Where's the gallbladder and kind of what its main purpose is.
So it's located in the upper abdominal, right side of the abdominal area, and it's shaped like a pear. So it's kind of up in this area here.
It's a pouch-like organ, kind of the definition.
Yeah, and really the bottom line, it helps emulsify fat. So it helps to break down fat. So when it gets into the small intestines, it allows it to be broken down and absorbed.
So it creates this bile, this juice. This helps to really break down fat and food and help things be eliminated or absorbed or broken down.
And if you really, again, the listeners don't need to hear about this, but when you really think about, it's like, as a kid, you didn't really deal with this, but we had a game called Mousetrap. And
As likes Mousetrap.
Yeah, Mousetrap
just
is great.
Can't ever find the little...
So everything's connected. So when you do anything in the body, all these organs, they're all doing their deal. They're all working their stuff. It's like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Everything has a purpose. And if it doesn't do its purpose, then something else has to work harder. And I think that's our message today, is that they're all important, whether it's the pancreas or the
appendix, the tonsils.
Or tonsils, they're all having now, if there's something that gets really bad, then, surgically that might be an option, but that's the conversation today.
Yeah. So let's talk about a couple things. So, you have this gallbladder, and this gallbladder produces bile. The bile helps to break down fat. So initially, right off the bat, let's not jump over this. When you have gallbladder issues and or leads to gallbladder removal, we're gonna have trouble breaking down fat.
Correct.
And so let's go right to the listeners. Let's get right to the juice today. What will that cause down the road? So let's just say gallstones inflammation, things are blocked up. The surgeon says it's time to remove it. Let's talk 10 years from when a gallbladder is removed.
Well, the big thing right away is the liver has to work really hard, because now the liver's job wasn't to emulsify and break down fat, but now that's
It can.
It can, but that's the beautiful thing about the human body. You have, whether it's collateral circulation for the heart, or you have the liver working harder for the gallbladder. So now you're putting more stress in the liver. Number two, you put lots of stress in the pancreas. In many cases, when people remove their gallbladder, they're going to have type 2 diabetes in 10 years. So I remember I was speaking in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and one of the questions was about gallbladder, and I just said, kind of nonchalantly that, just be aware that your body needs the gallbladder, and many times when people get the gallbladder removed, you have type 2 diabetes, and this woman raised her hand, stood up, and said, it's almost 10 years, and now I have type 2 diabetes. So that's the challenge, because now the pancreas, which helps to control glucagon and insulin and all these wonderful things to keep our glucose in line.
Now the alignment's off for that.
Now that has to work hard, and now it gets burned out, and you can see how this starts to roll.
All right, so this is where the disclaimer comes in. Some people may be listening, have had their gallbladder removed. You're not going to put it back in. We can't go back. We're not trying to tell people what they did was necessarily wrong. We're trying to just give some optimization. And so wherever you're at, if you don't have a gallbladder, how can we make it better? How can we make the bulls work more efficiently to not put as much pressure? If you currently have gallstones and starting to go down that path, okay, we're going to have that conversation. Or if you have a healthy gallbladder, how do we keep that gallbladder?
I think that's the main emphasis, is wherever you are, how do we all make it better?
That's the key. You can't really go backwards.
And one of the things you just said real quickly is the bulls, BULLS. That's how the body eliminates.
So break that down.
That's your bowel. So you should have a bowel movement, 1 to 3 times a day. Should look like a soft banana. Your urine, Matthew Cross used to always talk about that. Your urine should look like Chardonnay. It's not too clear, but not dark at all. It should have a little tint of a color. And then from there, you go to the lungs. So now we're doing diaphragmatic breathing and eliminating that way. Then we have the lymphatic system, which is we're using your arms, mini trampoline, maybe doing some soft tissue massage, because that's really good, or getting a massage.
Try not to use aluminum deodorant and things that block the lymph.
So not blocking the lymph. And then last but not least is your skin. So that's how the body eliminates. So if the body's not eliminating, then we create toxicity. And that toxicity could lead to a lot of things, including gallstones.
Yeah, and so, I think the interesting thing to me is I learned about bulls. You talk about bulls a lot. Probably one of your favorite kind of ways to illustrate that, and it kind of hits people like, why are we talking about this? It's kind of gross, kind of weird. I mean, your gut is your most important part almost of like thriving and surviving. You need to eat food, and you need to break that food down, and you need to eliminate that food. It creates toxicity. Cancer's rampant. Diseases off the charts. You talk about the lungs, COVID, and the immune system, and stress. Think about stress and the inability to clear the lungs when you're stressed. So the bulls are so critically important, and it comes back again to this gallbladder of, if I'm not producing the right amount of bile, I'm probably not going to have a good bowel movement.
Correct.
If I'm not having a good bowel movement, or if I'm not eliminating toxicity, I'm probably going to get that sewage system clogged up, and potentially it could happen in the gallbladder.
Yeah, one of the first questions when I train people privately, I ask them, tell me about your bowel movement. They've never been asked that. I've had women, I've had men. I had one woman years ago, she eliminates twice a week. Thinks it's normal for her. She never really thought about it. So again, you can see what's normal. If you have, like I look at Floyd or Boji, our dogs, if they don't have a bowel movement once or twice a day, every day, they're going to the vet.
Yeah, or they ate a sock.
Or they ate a sock. Boji ate a sock. But that's the challenge out there. If you have issues with your gallbladder or whatever it might be, you step back and say, how can I make it better? How can I have better elimination? How can I? That's really the conversation today, because whether it's gout or acid reflux or, gallstones. The body is out of balance.
So let's tell the listeners a story about one of our favorite people, Dawn Miller, who worked for us for 10 plus years, 15 years.
15.
So when you first met Dawn and she first started working, she had gallstones. And so take the listeners on her story to give the listeners a real practical anecdote of what we've seen.
Well, Dawn, she was the first person that came on board with Ontario Living before you did, but she was the first person I hired. And she was, Dawn was amazing. She's a wonderful human being, and we love her energy. And she's now a counselor in mental health, and in fact, she's in a perfect space for her world. But way back in the day when she first came in, she kind of had a feeling of what we did, but then she started learning, and then we sat down one day, and she was telling me that she has all this pain in her. And then she went to see the doctor. Doctor says, you have gallstones. You're going to have, your gallbladder removed. And so she came to see me and said, what do you think? And I said, well, surgery is always a possibility, but to me, in my world, that's kind of the last resort. Let's do this. Let's start making some changes. Let's drink less coffee. Let's do this and that. And I said, let's take it one at a time. Now, if it's your pain's so excruciating, then yes, maybe we'll go to the next level. But she was told by the surgeon, by her primary care doctor, you have no other option. In fact, the surgeon said to her, if, I'm going to do work on this, and the surgeon says, if this works, why don't you come back and we'll write a book together? And that was just tongue in cheek. He's being an idiot. So basically, she changed her diet. She changed this. She had no problems. And 15, 16 years later, she has her gallbladder intact, and she's completely...
Now, tell the listeners, it took, I think from my understanding, it took a good year. But she didn't have pain to a point where
she was having less and less pain, but then over time...
It just all of a sudden...
So again, back to slowly elimination, detoxification...
Drinking more water, eating more food, more regular.
Chlorophyll. Yeah, you're just cleaning up the diet. And that's the beautiful thing about that body, because you said it right at the beginning. As the gut gets healthy, everything rolls. So it begins in the mouth through the anus, 30-foot to 40-foot pipe. As that gut gets healthier, including the small intestines, large intestines, the spleen, the gallbladder, they all work as a team. And so when the body starts cleaning up, you might have gallstones, but you also probably have other areas. People say they have bypass surgery and my arteries are all clean. Arteries are not all clean, just right in that space, right?
Well, it's interesting. I picked up some food at a restaurant yesterday, and I walked in, and they said, our dining room's closed. You can get takeout. I probably should have walked out at that point. It turned out to be fine, but they had a clogged pipe. Just after years, it's an old building, calcification in the pipe. And it would have probably cost $200,000, $300,000 to remove the whole pipe. So what they had to do is they had a drill in the middle of the pipe so that they could scope it in a couple different directions. And it's the same type of thing as what's the least invasive, quickest way to get us back to operational. A pipe is a pipe, but the best thing probably to do is to replace the pipe. Can't afford it. As a human, it's not real possible to replace everything. It's becoming more possible. Gallbladder at this point, you can't replace it. And in the human body, we're not machines. I don't think replacement is ever going to be the best unless you had a genetic issue as good as it was created. And so the key is then, what if we use the body and its ability to heal itself, self-correct? That's what we're talking about today. That's what we have an opportunity to do. Here's a couple interesting stats. You had me look a couple of things up. So I can't even pronounce the technical definition for gallbladder removal. It's like cholecystectomies or something weird.
Doesn't matter. It's gallbladder removal.
Gallbladder removal. Well, 20 million people have gallstones in the United States each year. 20 million. Yep. From that 20 million, 1.2 million per year are removed in the United States.
1.2 million are their gallbladders removed?
Removed in the United States. Now
1.2 million.
1.2 million. Now there's 300 and some million people, but think about, You're probably not going to have your gallbladder removed under the age of 18. You're probably not necessarily going to have your gallbladder removed over the age of, 70, 75, 80. It's a pretty invasive operation. And so that chunk in the middle, I mean, that's a lot of people. That's probably 6 to 7% of people in that are in that range. So what's the cost? The cost can be anywhere between $3,000 and $6,000 per surgery. And so just let's do averages. Gallbladder removal surgeries cost $5.4 billion each year.
$5.4 billion.
Dawn's a great example of never going to be able to clear up her gallstones unless she has it operated. She did a couple things, and now she's, still has her gallbladder. And everything else, we hope, we're not inside her body, is operating better because...
So again, if you go back in time, where would she be in today? Where would she be in 10 years or 15 years from now?
That's a tough part about prevention. You can't say what it is.
And the other thing too, she did the work.
Did the work.
She did the work.
Took some time.
Yep, took some time.
Had to go through some pain.
And then had to trust the process.
So let's go through that process and we'll take them through kind of a journey of what they need to do, the actual executables, and why those executables work to clean up the gallbladder.
I mean, one of the greatest ways to eliminate, we all know, is water. So hydration is always the beginning.
That reminds me, kidney stones are very common. Gallstones, maybe people think they're completely different, but it's probably the same procedure and process.
Again, back to your pH is out of balance.
Yeah, so let's...
You got to get your pH more alkaline.
So we'll talk with hydration.
So hydration. On top of that, here comes the lemons. So lemons are very alkalizing by digestion.
Now here's an interesting thing. As you go on the internet, and internet can solve every problem, right? You just Google it. There's, I would say, hundreds of products that are called gallstone blasters or natural cleanses, anywhere from $40 to $100, books and processes. You just look at the ingredients. It's what we're going to talk about here in a second. It's synthetic lemon, it's apple cider vinegar, it's olive oil. But we're going to take about how to do this in really easy, anybody can do it.
Easy, doesn't cost hardly anything.
Maybe not easy, but simple.
Simple, yeah.
All right, hydration, lemons, trying to get that pH more alkaline.
Yep. Number 2, you're going to bring chlorophyll to the party.
So anything
dark,
green.
Anything green. That could be, bok choy, broccoli, asparagus, all sorts of different types of leafy greens.
And so what does that do for you from a gut standpoint, from a pH standpoint, specifically gallbladder?
So that's why we're so big fans of spirulina, chlorella, frozen wheatgrass, because now you're dumping lots of chlorophyll in your body, but you're also dumping nucleic acid, minerals, all these wonderful things in the body. But really the bottom line for chlorophyll is it's detoxifying, it's cleansing. So it's really like now you're creating this really good, garden in the gut.
You always illustrate like scrubbing bubbles. It's really helping to clean up the
cleaning
garbage.
Things up. Yeah. So imagine if you have a toxic, stream or a lake, what would you do to get that up? And a big part of keeping the body really clean is minerals. That's why we're a big fan of wheatgrass, because of the natural minerals in that.
Not synthetic minerals, natural.
Nope. We're not asking you to take calcium. We're not asking you to take, potassium. We're just getting the real food. Also, here comes now your healthy fats. So you get the water, you got the chlorophyll. Now here comes your healthy fats. And that could be, here comes extra virgin olive oil. That's coconut, which is a saturated fat. So now we're bringing really healthy fats into the gut. That's what we did with Dawn. And so almonds, avocados.
How many people are deficient in just, we talk about deficiency, 95% omega-3s, but just healthy fats in general.
Healthy fats in general. People just are not.
So if a typical diet is, you're trying to eat healthier, but it's out of a package, it's out of a box, you're not going to get extra virgin olive oil. You're not going to get virgin coconut oil. You're not going to get omega-3s.
Yeah, you're getting, so now here comes the cod liver oil. Again, I had a group in Chicago I was speaking to, and they said, what kind of cod liver oil would you recommend? I go, Kristen was in the audience, and I said, ours. I mean, because that's why we were so adamant about it. But flax is another really good one. I mean, flax is so good to detox the body because it's the highest source of fiber. So you just get we sell them, but you can get them anywhere. Just get flax seeds to grind enough up for a couple weeks. And I recommend, 2 to 3 servings a week of 1 to 2 tablespoons. It's great for the gallbladder. It's great for the gut, and it's great at high levels of omega-3 and fibers.
So let's talk inflammation. So let's paint this picture. You get inflammation happening in a gallbladder.
Mm-hmm.
That's where people start to have pain. It's inflamed. It's blocked. There's heat. It's swelling.
Yeah, absolutely.
So inflammation, we know, leads to a lot of problems. When we're talking about omega-3 specifically, one of the biggest benefits of healthy fats is to reduce and minimize inflammation. Also, talk to the listeners about pH and how that has a role on inflammation.
So when you think of the human body, we talk about the 3 principles: the cell, the pH, and the source. But when you think about pH, as your body gets more acidic, acid equals inflammation. So a lot of the diets out there today are you're going to lose weight, but they're very acidic. So a big part of carbohydrates and fats and working all together creates more of a healthier gut, or a more alkaline gut. And that's a big part of that. So again, you want to have these healthy fats, but you also want to make your gut very alkaline. That's eating, the next thing, I'm going to get ahead of myself a little bit here, but once they get the healthy fats, I'm a big fan of pumpkin seeds, Brazil nuts. Those are your omega-6 fats now. So now we've covered all the grounds, all the hormones, helps with inflammation, all the stuff that some of these healthy fats do. And then from there you move into...
So what's 4?
Now you're getting into the pre-pro and symbiotic foods. And again, we're talking about foods. We're not talking about a pill. We're talking about foods. And one of the greatest ones I've mentioned already is lemon. Ginger's another one. Potatoes, bananas, but apples are gold.
Apples.
So apples are gold for the gut. They're great for the gallbladder.
What if someone came into let's just say for a second, you have a day of being a surgeon, and they come in and they want you to fix them today. And you say, you know what I want you to do? I want you to eat apples. Why is that so unusual versus, sure, we can schedule this 6 months out and we'll remove it? Why is that unusual?
Unusual mean how the apple's going to help you?
Yeah, it's almost so simple and so common sense that it doesn't make any sense.
Well, we're a big fan of not getting rid of stuff, but when you start putting good stuff in the body, you start pushing out the crap.
Yeah.
And so when the crap starts going away, we even talked about the crap, get rid of the crap.
Well, to me, the amount of people that aren't eating whole fruits for many reasons, like for the reason that they think that's the worst thing you can put in the body, to the reason that it's too hard, I don't like the taste, it's too much work.
Well, most people have gallbladder issues, they're too acidic.
20 million.
And if you're too acidic, again, you got to ask the question, what's causing these things to create these stones? So whether it's kidney stones or gallbladder, gallstones, whatever it might be, but there's a pH imbalance. So the key is how do you make that go away? Well, you got to eat fruit, and you got to eat real food, especially real carbohydrates. When you take carbohydrates out of the body, you upset the natural ecology of the gut. So that's where here comes the fruits, the berries. You're not going to overdo apples. You're not going to eat 10 apples, right? And potatoes and cacao nibs and coconut, real sauerkraut, pickles, always buy them in the refrigerated section. So now I'm eating live foods that make, there's a prebiotic, a probiotic, and a symbiotic.
And now this garden starts to grow and flourish. And
now the garden,
the weeds
the
and
the
pests
are going away. Your body's eliminated. It's cleansing correctly. And now the waterfall. It's interesting when we turn our waterfall on at our house. When I first turned it on, the kids were over and it's very muddy. It's very muddy when it first gets going. But then as soon as it gets going, the water's completely pristine. It's clear. It's because now everything's moving.
Mm-hmm. It settles,
and
moves.
It's no different than the gut. That's why we're a big fan of the work in the lymphatic system.
Things staying in one spot, not a good idea.
And so once you start getting the water and the healthy fats and the healthy good stuff to make your body more alkaline, then from there we create movement. And there's nothing better for gallstones than twisting. So if you're trying to create better, you just add some twisting movements, work your arms, lymphatic system, mini trampoline, or maybe even do pressure point massages into, the stomach area. You could go to the lower, you go to the middle, the upper. These are all ways to kind of stimulate that digestive process.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, today is we're talking about diet, but again, you just can't. That's why the Rest Eat Move is so us, because you can't. If you're not moving, you're not eliminating. Period. So I don't care how good you eat.
Well,
if you don't move your body, that the body is kind of
So if you're trying to get Boji to have a bowel movement, what are you going to do?
Well, he's got to run. He's got to
go outside.
Every time you take him on a walk, he'll have a bowel movement.
Of course. So why do we think that? I'm playing video games all day, or I'm sitting at my computer, and again, it's so common sense.
I mean, think about that piping you just talked about, 30 feet,
Yeah.
40 feet, and then you're just going to put a kink in it because you're sitting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that kink is going to bog things up, and it's going to slow it down, and next thing you know,
So if anybody out there has some issues with their, you follow kind of what we're talking about today, but do some pressure point stuff and massage it. And then you get into some movement and some twisting
mini
activities.
trampolines. Yeah.
This is it's like your pipe is clogged and you're pushing that stuff out, and that's called, you get into the lymphatic system. Everything's working together. That's why we're such a huge fan of massages or Epsom salt baths or all these things. They all help that lymphatic flow. So again, we always step back and say, okay, the body's talking back. Are we listening? Versus, I'm just going to take this and break this up or whatever. You don't need any crazy cleanses. You just need to start really systematically working on how does the body eliminate.
So as we got right to the heart of it. It's a huge problem.
Would you say $5,400,000,000?
It's costing $5 billion. So I don't know. That's a amount of money that not everybody this is going to work for. They might be too far gone. There might be some genetic things.
But even though you're too far gone, I always tell people we're all dealt a hand, and you do the best you can. And not all the time it's fair. There's no doubt about it. But wherever you are, all this stuff's going to make a little difference on how you feel. And a big part of this is where prevention is like, we don't want you to have some of these issues. If you do have them, this is going to help. But we also, if you don't have them, this is going to help.
And so if you don't have a gallbladder, these same things are going to make that liver be more efficient at creating that bile so that it's not working as hard. And so that we can't put the gallbladder back.
I mean, can you imagine every day you're just putting complete garbage in your body, and your body's going to go, what's going on? Why is this person doing this to me? I always think about this sometimes. I'm drinking energy drinks. I'm drinking way too much caffeine, too much alcohol, processed foods. I don't move. I sit too much. You can see how the stress is high. Don't sleep. After a while, I'm okay, something's going to happen.
Yeah, tap uncle.
And uncle's going to take over.
All right. So as we wrap up, any final thoughts, and then I'll close it down.
I think the big thing is we're talking about the gallbladder today, but that could be gout. That could be acid reflux. That could be anything that has to do with digestion that's compromised.
Digestion's a big deal.
It's a big deal. And if, again, anybody that next time you go to the grocery store, just walk down the digestive aisles and take a look. Because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry because we don't get it. It's not that hard. I mean, it's simple. We need to develop these lifestyles. But gallstones, gallbladder, that's a symptom of, something's out of balance.
So it's like the movie Tommy Boy, where he's talking about the guarantee.
Yeah.
Put the guarantee on the box. We're not going to put the guarantee on the box today, but if you have a problem, if you feel like this resonated today, or you want to learn more information, we're real people here. Shoot us an email, info@ontargetliving.com, and we will get you connected or give you some tips or some tricks or.
Yeah, I think people just really need to realize that as we talk about that, people have the power. And once they feel like they have the power and a plan, that's exciting.
Power and a plan. You got to have a plan. You got to realize that you have the power. And you look at the gallbladder or you look at any of these issues and you say, okay, but we got to have that optimism of what's possible. And we shared with you one story. I'm pretty confident if you follow this process, most people are going to get a good outcome. And the worst possible outcome, this is the craziest part, is that you're going to feel better. You may still down the road maybe have to have your gallbladder removed. We can't control that. We're not your surgeon. We're not your doctor. But if you follow this process here, you will feel better. I can guarantee you that 100% of the time.
No doubt about it.
So we'll see you again next time. Any topics, ideas, thoughts, we're always here to take suggestions. Have a great week. We'll see you again next time.